And how similar is this to people's reaction today between current affairs and sacred text? Current affairs, everyone wants to hear it. Why? Because they hold it to be relevant to their world right now. And sacred text, people, you say, I have an announcement today, we're going to talk about sacred texts, Quran, for example. It's not going to move the needle. But say, no, today's live stream is about what's happening in the West Bank today. Israel's peace treaty, or what's it called, ceasefire, was, and you wonder, why would they do this? Now we know, because they're going to the West Bank. And so today we're going to talk about current events and why Israel's going to the West Bank. All right, has value. No one denies that the current events has value to know what's happening in this Hayat Dunya. But what if someone told you this is merely a petri dish? You're in a transit in the airport. What's happening in the airport is relevant to you. There's some relevance. They're closing the Dunkin' Donuts there. They're opening a pizzeria there, right? The little currency exchange is moving from here to there. There's some importance to you. But if you're traveling to a city, a destination, isn't that more important to you? It's more important. But people who have never been to someplace, they've never experienced it, they can't really, it's taken on trust. So what's happening in the world today, we see it with our own eyes, so we tend to believe it's more important than it actually is. What's going to happen when you die and when you go to the afterlife, we only take it on trust of someone who's been there, which is the Prophet ﷺ in the Isra and Mi'raj has been there and came back to tell us. So it's taken on trust. Something you take on trust, you tend not to weigh it at the same weight as something you see with your own two eyes. Demonstrable information, transmitted information. Or I should say demonstrable information tends to be heavier than transmitted information. We treat it like with more importance. So any news of this Hayat Dunya that we're living in, people will always elevate it above news about the next life. Even Muslims. Preparation for the next life. All right, let's do a live stream on preparing for the oncoming storm that's coming, or the incoming storm that's coming. All right, everyone's going to pay attention. But that storm is going to affect you for 2 days. Let's have a live stream on what's going to happen when you die and go to the grave. Next video. Unless somebody is spiritually trained. Spiritually trained means they understand the akhirah, and they have been trained to always keep their mind on the akhirah. That's a very high level. Takes a lot of training, takes a lot of tadhkir. And that's what An-Nadr did here, Ibn al-Harith. Abu Jahl and Abu Lahab had different philosophies. Abu Lahab would go to people and say, stop listening to Muhammad. Abu Lahab, he was not that bright. Because when you speak negatively about someone, you're still increasing their attention. So Abu Jahl sat around looking, and he realized, subhanAllah, Abu Lahab, your technique is the worse. You make things worse. Now people think about Muhammad even more. Because whether they like him or hate him, they think he's important. Because you keep talking about him. That's why negative press is wonderful. People think it hurts. Yeah, it hurts. But it's wonderful. It's good for you. Islam got more negative press since 9/11 than any other religion. And where is it today? It's doing just fine. It's far superior today in the United States of America, in the heartland where 9/11 happened, than it was on September 10th, 2001. When you could probably go to a person on the street and he would not know the difference between Islam and anything else. But today everyone knows about it. So where's the negative press? Yeah, you have far worse enemies, but that's the cost of becoming exposed or being apparent. Exposure. The cost of exposure. You can't not get the benefits of exposure without the harms of exposure. You can't get the benefits without the harms of anything. So you want hundreds of millions of people to know about you and like your faith and religion and believe in Islam, you're also going to get hundreds of millions of people to hate you. You cannot ever get all the likes with no dislikes. That equation does not exist. Show me a company that has income and no expenses. There's no such thing. The more you have income, the more you have expenses. There's no other way around it. I want the income without the expenses. Of course, you're going to get laughed at business school, right? You're going to get laughed at. So Abu Jahl, he came in and he says, I have a better idea. Let's not tell the people, stop thinking about Muhammad. Because now you're just increasing people thinking about Muhammad. Every time Muhammad comes and speaks, let's set up a rival halaqah. And let's get somebody, basically CNN. Who's the CNN of the day to tell us all the news? Twitter account, basically. And Nadr ibn al-Harith. Why? Because he travels far and wide, and he goes out to the scouts, and he pays, and he gets news. He was one of the first news agencies of that time. And Nadr ibn al-Harith. And his news agency basically, kana tajir. He used to be a merchant, always trading back and forth. And he used to go and pay people to sit down and tell him the news. Tell us what's going on in Persia. People love the news, right? They like to see someone else suffering and winning and doing all these things while they sit at home comfortable. So people love the news. So then they said, all right, every time the Prophet's telling about the Quran or speaking about Allah, you go, start your halaqah and start CNN. Start your Twitter feed, which is basically, this is what's going on to Rustum, and this is what's going on to the Kisra, and this is what's going on with the Byzantines, and this king is up and this queen is down, etc., 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 etc. Qisas, news. If people took in the Quran as much as they take in the news, imagine how their life and afterlife would be. And I really want to genuinely ask, sometimes I know that it's bad to not know what's going on. It seems like it's a negative. But at the end of someone's life, I really wonder how many people have said, you know, the best thing I did with my life, I kept up to date. And I would like to see how many huffaz of Quran or people of deen say at the end of their life, best thing I did was I didn't waste my time and I memorized the Quran, or I recited Quran, or I studied hadith. I would guarantee you 100% of the people who devoted their life to deen will say that. And I would say 0 to 2% of the people who devoted their life to the news and to the happenings will say, best thing I did was stay up to date. I guarantee you. But the Prophet ﷺ warned us, what's really beneficial to you is surrounded by hardship. What's not is surrounded by ease. It's just so easy to sit and scroll, and then it's important to know these things.